Hello and everyone, and welcome back to another session of Office Hours. It's Office Hours number 44 on the 2nd of June. And today we're just going to be talking about a topic that is a little bit less focused on the marketing and more focused on psychology and business, and specifically, why do founders fail to launch? Now, Groundhogg and our products, our suite of products, are really meant to help businesses launch their marketing strategy or help them get off the ground at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time that it would take for, let's say, using a software as a service application. However, services and tools and software like ours is not the be-all and end-all of a business launching. There are lots of reasons why businesses fail to get off the ground or founders fail to launch, but I'm going to be tackling a specific subsection of those reasons today, which I'll get to in a moment. And before we go into the deep dive on answering questions, why do founders fail to launch specific products or their services or their entire business, some announcements. So first off, if you have any questions during the stream at any point, you are welcome to type those into the chat area. You can just pop in there and say hello to let us know that you're here. We typically take questions during the topic section, which is why do founders fail to launch. If you have any questions regarding that specific topic, you're welcome to post those in now. Questions not related to the topic will be held to the Q&A portion of the call, which generally happens in the second half of the call in around 15 minutes. So if you have questions or general questions and you want to ask those, we will have a Q&A section at the end, and that's when we'll tackle those questions. Topic-related questions get answered generally while we're going through that topic. This Office Hours will be recorded and posted to Groundhogg Academy, where you can watch also all of our previously recorded Office Hours as well. Mailhawk is a brand new service from the same team that brought you Groundhogg, so myself and a few other people. It is an email delivery service designed specifically to deliver WordPress email like Groundhogg emails, password notifications, WooCommerce notifications, LMS notifications, BuddyBoss, etc. You name it. We have specifically designed this service to deliver WordPress email. We're getting great deliverability rates from mailtester.com, a 9.8 deliverability score, and really great pricing, starting at $14.97 a month for, I think, 40,000 emails a month. So some really generous packages there. You can find out more about that at mailhawk.io. You can also go to Groundhogg Settings Email, and there's actually a connect button that will help you get it set up automatically. So let's jump into our main topic for today, and that's why do founders fail to launch? Now, there's lots of reasons why founders fail to launch. They run out of money. The product never ended up working quite right. They just didn't have a market. They didn't do their due diligence with their partners. There's a significant number of reasons why founders fail to launch. However, the one that I see most is the one that we're going to be talking about today. And that's the need for perfection. So the number one reason why time and time again, I see founders, product developers, and creators failing to launch their product and turn it into a viable business is because they are trying to perfect it, and they need to perfect that product. Now, the need for perfection it haunts all of us. I'm a perfectionist and I want everything to be perfect, but over time I've trained myself to essentially look at everything from a good enough lens and then ship when it solves a problem. Now, the need for perfection and understanding where the need for perfection comes from, I think we actually need to go all the way back to school to understand why founders and why creators try and put so much effort into a perfect product before they decide to show it to anybody. This stems from, I think, our ego. And the reason I say that is because when you become a creator and you become a business owner and developer, you attach your product worth or your creation's work to your self-worth, because you're pretty much all invested in that one product or in that one service. It's what you're doing day in and day out, and all of a sudden the line between the product and your own ego and your own self-worth becomes literally blurred. And that can have an extremely damaging effect not only on yourself, but on the actual viability and the success of the product as a whole. We have to go back all the way back to when we were in school, and we were thinking about constructive criticism. Now, I think everybody's gone through this in school where you had some sort of project, maybe some sort of essay. You did the whole peer review thing, and the teacher said, all right, everybody, we're going to have a constructive criticism session, and everybody's going to tell what you can improve on and what they need to change and what they did wrong or whatever. And I actually think constructive criticism is an extremely destructive process by nature, despite what the name might have you believe. I'm going to share with you a story. In university, I am not the best formal writer. I'm a much better casual and creative writer than I am a formal writer. So we were doing peer review essays, and it was a history class. And I wrote this whole history essay. I thought I did really, really well. I had it reviewed by a friend ahead of time to get it spell checked and grammar checked and the whole thing. I went in and we did the whole peer review thing, and I was very kind and I was very generous. And I'm like, wow, this person did really, really good. And when I got my essay back, it looked pretty much like this. It was just covered in red ink and, you suck and all of these different things. And all I could think of myself looking at this page of red ink is like, wow, I learned so much from this experience. Not really at all. I didn't learn anything. Yes, it pointed out all of the things that I did wrong, but it did not point out any of the things that I did right. It did not point out any of the things that I could improve upon. It did not outline any of the ways that I could go about improving those things. It was basically just a big letter of like, here are all the things why you should not continue this line of thinking at all. And I had to, I felt extremely demoralized, and I essentially, this, I'm out. I'm not going through this painful process again, because when you put that amount of effort into something and someone basically just, barfs all over it, that's a very unrewarding and unfulfilling experience that can have a deep psychological and profound effect on you. And all of us have gone through this before in life. Either it was in school or from parents or in business before. All of us go through these extremely painful processes, which trains us as creators and as individuals to essentially almost suffocate our project with perfection, so that when we go through the peer review process, we don't get back an essay covered in red ink, but we get, thank you notes and like, good job and hands up. And that's essentially what we're looking for. When we launch our project, the thing that we're looking for is validation, and all the other things that come with running a business, like revenue. But that is also a form of validation. So when we launch that project, or that product or that service, we're looking for validation. And when that doesn't happen, and all you get back is a bunch of criticism saying, here are all the things that you did wrong, that's what we're trying to avoid by making the perfect product, going back to that need for perfectionism. The reason we need that, I think, goes back to that constructive criticism process and that feeling of being demoralized by everybody telling you what you could have done better, what you did wrong, without highlighting all of the things that you did well or highlighting any ways that you can improve your shortcomings. All to say, this inevitably leads us to putting our project and our product and our service behind a coming soon wall, so that nobody can negatively review it. And I see this happen to creators so much, whether they actually realize it or not. Most of this happens on like the subconscious level, a lot of it. Because, we don't want to admit to ourselves as creators that we attach a lot of our self-worth to our product's worth, but if we can't actually value our product against the revenue from customers, then it's not really worth much in the beginning to begin with. So what do we do? So is this you? Are you currently sitting on a project because and you're trying to perfect it. You might be trying to perfect it for different reasons, but subconsciously, I think a lot of it boils down to the whole criticism aspect. So if you're currently sitting on a project because you're trying to perfect it, or it just needs to be that much better, or you're waiting to add a new feature, there's a few things that I want you to think about. So number one, the perfect product is impossible. It's not possible to create a perfect product. I tried, believe me. And there's a few reasons for this. There's always going to be a new feature. There's going to be a new thing to add. Technology changes every single day. Market demands change. The free market is ever evolving. If you looked 3 years ago and looked at the range of products versus the range of products that are available today, huge differences and leaps and bounds in between the products. If you just look at the smartphone, it like leapfrogs 7 generations every 6 months. So it's just by spending and trying to perfect the perfect product ahead of time, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because time and technology and market demands just move so quickly that if you have a problem right now, you should be solving that problem right now, not in 6 months from now when your product is perfect. The second thing is, going back to the criticism note for a moment, and that's just, you can't please everyone. When you go into business and when you have a product, you're generally going to help a specific target market, or you're going to have a specific product fit with a specific kind of person. Not everyone is going to fit your product fit. You can't, if you're selling to everyone, you're selling to no one essentially. So you're always going to have people who are going to look at your product and say, that's not for me, I don't like that, what a terrible product, because it just doesn't fit who they are as a person or as a business or whatever. So you're just going to have to strategically pick out the people who you actually want to be your customers. And even if that person becomes a customer and they become a dissenter later on, you're going to have to remind yourself that you can't please every single person. You can do your best to offer a valuable customer experience, but if they are insistent on being a pain in the side and are only being a negative influence on your support system and on your business, it's a lot easier to let them go, remember the experience for later, and then use what you learned to apply that to the next experience, because there's always going to be more people who are going to criticize what you do. And that's just kind of, that's business for you. There have been a ton of people in my own life and in Groundhogg and in my previous companies as well who have decided to take the road of, hey, listen, let's just tear this guy down and everything that he built because I was unable to do that, or it didn't work, or it crashed my site or whatever. That happens. And you're just going to have to remind yourself that regardless of that one person's experience, for every one dissenter or one critic that you have, it's much more likely that you have hundreds, if not thousands, of other people implementing your product and services successfully to achieve a positive result. You can't base your product worth or your self-worth based on the experiences of a single individual. I remember going to go see a movie, Venom. So if anyone went to go see Venom produced by Sony, it got like, I want to say, 1 star on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the movie rating site. And every single person who went to the movie theater absolutely loved it because it was a riot, it was funny. It was a terrible movie from like movie quality standpoints, but nobody really cared that it was a terrible movie because it was fun and entertaining. So that goes to show that the experience of a few critics does not necessarily equate to the experience of everyone, and you have to really outweigh those critics with your overall pleasant experiences that you're creating for your customers. Opportunity does not last forever, and I think that this is the last talking point for why you should necessarily launch today, and that's time is running out for the viability of your solution. There are, of course, some evergreen solutions out there, like, music is going to be around for a very, very, very long time, but the needs of musicians change time and time. So if you're teaching a specific style of music or you're teaching a specific methodology, there's sometimes timers on when those actually make sense to be teaching. or it makes sense for a specific technology product. I have no doubt that in like 30, 40 years from now, marketing automation is going to be like so freaking advanced, and WordPress might even be out of the picture, that this product is no longer going to be able to fulfill its promise to its customers, because it's going to be obsolesced, and we're going to have to reiterate, we're going to have to redesign, we're going to have to rethink the products and the strategies that we need in order to serve our market. So that's to say, if you have a problem that you can solve right now, you need to be solving that problem right now. You can't be waiting 2-3 years to enter the market, because someone else might come in also and fulfill the needs of that market that's waiting for you. And if it's a small market, a specific niche market, there's only so many players that can operate in it. So if you're going to be the one to solve that problem for that niche, you need to do it as soon as possible. Before we move on, let's just talk about how you can actually be proactive about criticism and receiving it, both giving and receiving. So if you're a founder and you're sitting on a product and you're worried about, the receiving that negative feedback, that negative criticism, or you might be in a group where you are providing that constructive criticism process, here are a few things that I'd recommend that you think about next time you go through that. That might be able to provide more value both to yourself and to the receiver, or if you are the receiver, provide more value to you for sure. So that is collect and give feedback, not criticism. Criticism has an extremely negative connotation, while feedback is almost like night and day compared to criticism. And I'm going to share with you why feedback is a little bit different. Where is it? So constructive criticism should probably go away because it has a deeply negative connotation. It only focuses on what was done wrong and not really what was done well. It usually provides no information on how you could improve based on those shortcomings. It's extremely demoralizing. And going back to that essay, it's basically like having someone write all over your creation with a red pen, and nobody likes that. While feedback is basically a blue pen. If you've ever received an essay back in blue pen, usually you think your first intuition is like, wow, it's not red pen. That's amazing. It comes from a supportive role rather than an authoritative one. As creators, we're generally get like the be-all and end-all say on how our product moves forward. So when we get that criticism, it's almost it's almost like someone else is taking an authoritative role on our creation, and we don't like that. But feedback comes from a supportive role, and we want to help this creation become better, not tear it down. Feedback is also capable of acknowledging success while suggesting ways to improve shortcomings. It manages to do both at the same time without demoralizing the person receiving the feedback. So whenever you're giving feedback or you're requesting feedback, and you notice that we do this a lot in Groundhogg, is we ask 3 questions, or we answer those 3 questions, depending on whether you're the giver or the receiver of the feedback. Number 1, what did we or you get right? So this provides an opportunity to inform the business or to have the customer inform you of what you're actually doing right. This allows you to double down on that feature or that functionality or that training, and maybe share its aspects and its attributes across the rest of your service. Next, you asked, what can be improved? Notice the phrasing of this question. It's not what did you get absolutely freaking wrong, it's what can be improved. That's saying that while this feature provides value, it can provide more value. And the third question is, how can we improve it so it can actually reach its full potential? The phrasing and the wording of these questions is incredibly important because it's the difference between criticism and coming from a supportive role and actually providing the end user, the business, or yourself with valuable lessons that can be used in order to improve the product. So, are you sitting on an unlaunched project right now? I'd love to know. You can go ahead and you can type in the chat just yes or no if you're currently sitting on an unlaunched project. And if you are, I want you also to ask yourself, does your project in its current form solve a problem. Current form, what does current form mean? That means if you were to sell your project or your service or your product or whatever, right this second, if you were to, have a magic customer show up on your doorstep and say, I'm going to give you this many dollars for your solution, would it be able to solve the problem that they have? And if the answer to that question is yes, it would be able to solve the problem, then I implore you to launch your project as soon as possible. Be damned whatever features are missing. Be damned if there's spelling mistakes. Be damned, if it's not perfect, because it will never be perfect. But if it's capable of solving this person's problems, it should be sold to them, and you have a duty and responsibility to help them solve that problem as quickly as possible. Our first release of Groundhogg, when Groundhogg first ended up in the repository way back in November of 2018, almost 2 years ago, I had spent 2 months in a dark hole. I had written the entire thing, right? And I had barely tested it and put it in the repository and started to sell it. And it took 2 months from start to finish in order to create my first sale. And the reason that I decided to do it that way rather than go through the year-long testing and review process and the betas and all of that is because marketing automation, for a few reasons, is a very volatile industry with changes happening every day. I wanted to satisfy the market as quickly as possible. And also, it's so hard to improve a product without feedback from real customers. So as much as we'd love to avoid feedback and criticism from customers, and we just want them to use it, and we want it to be perfect, and we want to do nothing to improve the product because we wanted to get it right the first time, it's just never going to happen. And it's so much easier, in fact, to collect feedback and improve the product when your audience is telling you exactly what you want, or what they want, rather, so that you can take their direct feedback and their desires and their needs and turn that into almost the perfect solution for them, so that they can satisfy their needs. So I think I'm going to wrap up the conversation on why founders fail to launch, criticism, and feedback. But before we go into the main Q&A answer period, maybe just a quick recap. So founders fail to launch for a variety of reasons, but one of those is because we have an insatiable need to release a perfected product the first time. Problem with that, of course, is that no project is ever perfect, and products these days are essentially just permanent works in progress. Would you consider YouTube, Google, Amazon, Facebook complete projects? No, they're still works in progress because they're being improved on a continual basis, as is our software. And will most likely, as will your service be. It's just a continual work in progress. So trying to create a project that's finished before it's served is a non-starter. You have a limited window of opportunity to actually make your project useful. That may be a short window of opportunity. It may be a super large window of opportunity, but it is limited. And the faster you're able to serve your market and solve their problems, the better, even if your project isn't fully finished yet. You'll always have critics, no matter what. And criticism is basically just an unavoidable reality of the business world. And people, they say those who can't do teach. And criticism is basically teaching from people who weren't able to create what you did. So power to you. You're going to have to just ignore the haters and continue on. You're going to have to realize that for every single critic that there's 100, maybe even 1,000 people who are loving your solution and implementing it. I think that's going to serve enough as a review. Let's go into regular question and answer. So the way that Q&A works is we have a live chat going on underneath the stream or beside the stream, depending how you're looking at it. You can just go ahead and type your question. I am going to repeat it live here on the call, and we're going to get you an answer in real time. There's about a 20-second delay, so if there's a little bit of dead space, don't worry. And it's just because I'm just waiting for your question to come in. There's a question from Nancy, and she's asking, she actually brings up a story. So back in the early days, pivoting back to the criticism topic just for a moment, back in November 2018, November, December, when we had originally launched Groundhogg, and it was pretty rough, but it solved the problem, and it did what we said it was going to do. It did it in a super janky and weird way, but it got the job done. But initial feedback from people was mixed, to say the least. I remember sharing it to a group, and they're basically just like, anything that's not content-based in WordPress just sucks. It's never going to work. It's super buggy. You should just quit now and focus your efforts elsewhere. We got a ton of people telling us that Groundhogg was basically just a non-starter. And here we are 2 years later, and doing fairly well, I'd like to think, with a pretty solid product that's helping over 1,000 businesses in 30 more countries. So I'd like to say that persistence paid off, and our vision of what Groundhogg would be able to accomplish was stronger than the criticism that we got from people who never even really had any experience with us or our product or our methodologies. And that's what's going to happen in early days. And we'd like to protect ourselves from that. And we'd like to shield ourselves from that by putting it behind a coming soon page and just working on it that little bit more so that we don't get that criticism. But the thing is, no matter how long you put that effort in, that criticism will come. But you're just going to have to remind yourself that, the criticism generally comes from a certain subset of people that failed to create themselves, as they say, as those who can't do teach, and most people teach through giving negative criticism. So that's just a reality, and you're gonna have to just look past that, and hopefully that provides a little bit of insight, a little bit of help to anybody who's currently sitting on their coming soon page with a product ready to go but not quite ready, if you know what I mean. So thank you, Nancy, for bringing up that story so I could share it. We are in our Q&A question and answer period. The way that Q&A works, for anybody who might be coming on a little bit late, we have our live chat. I have it on my right-hand side here. If I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm looking at the live chat. And you are able to type in a question. I will repeat it live on the call and then answer it right here on the call to the best of my abilities. And if I don't have an answer, I will point you in the direction where you can get one. There's about a 20-second delay, so if there's a little bit of dead space, don't worry. It's just because I'm waiting for your question or reply to come in. And so question away. Louis asks, today was Spencer from Launching giving a talk with Jonathan Denwad, and he gave you free publicity and mentioned Groundhogg, how useful Groundhogg is. So Spencer Forman is actually a friend of mine. We co-host on the WP Tonic roundtable every Friday. And Spencer's a great guy. His product, Launchflows, is a brilliant product. And he uses Groundhogg on a number of his client sites and implements it for some of his customers as well. Him, Jack, and I are all good acquaintances. And I'm glad that he mentioned Groundhogg. So thank you for pointing that out. I'll have to send him a thank you note. But Spencer and I are good friends. And if anybody's interested or using something called cart flows, he has a not necessarily a competitive product, but they can be used together, but Launchflows can also replace cart flows. And it's a brilliant alternative, and it's really, really, really slick. And it allows you to do some really, really cool funnels, actual like sales page funnels, not the funnels that Groundhogg has, which is the automation of the emails, but like the sales page funnels for like WooCommerce and Elementor. There's some really, really, really good stuff. So I can actually show you if anybody's interested. I'll get, since he'd give me a shout out, I'm just going to give him a shout out, Louis. So you can go to launchflows.com, I believe it is. Yeah. And it's just a really great plugin that allows you to build really cool checkout experiences with WooCommerce and Elementor. So go ahead, check this out. He's got a 7-day free trial thing going on, which is really, really, really cool. And he's a really, really, really smart guy. And this plugin specifically works with Groundhogg really, really, really well. So you can go ahead and check out Launchflows from Spencer Forman to help create beautiful checkout experiences with WooCommerce. I have a couple of questions coming in from Samantha Winslow. Samantha asks, I'm struggling to find reliable marketing information. How do you choose where to market your products? I'm going to need a little bit more information. Are you talking about like where to learn marketing practices and like marketing best practices and where to market products, or is there like a software aspect that you're asking about here, like a Groundhogg feature that you're asking about here? I'm just going to need a little bit more information, a little bit more context. There's lots of places where you can get solid, reliable marketing training, and I can point you in a few of those directions. And one of them is right here on Office Hours. If you have a question about marketing, I can help you. But there's also lots of training available elsewhere, and I can point you in that direction if that's what you're looking for. If you're asking about specific features, then I'm going to need you to specify exactly what it is you're missing. And she has a follow-up question. She's also struggling with plugin conflicts. We need so many plugins to accomplish tasks, and I'm using plugins with a high number of installs. Good authors still having conflicts. Yeah, that's kind of like the age-old WordPress thing. We try to do as much as we can within Groundhogg itself to avoid as many like integrations with other plugins as possible. Conflicts are basically kind of just like an inevitable thing. The only thing we can really do is when you experience a conflict, you have to let the authors know. All you have to do really, the best process for reporting on conflict is open a support ticket with one of the authors with the conflicting plugin, CC the other author, and then basically say, can you guys figure it out? Being able to talk directly with the other author through their support system is an incredible advantage to squashing conflicts really, really, really quickly. Without that ability, it's really hard to communicate and find the conflicts. So step 1 is knowing which plugins is causing the conflict. Step 2 is being able to connect the two developers together in order to create the relationship required in order to solve that conflict for you, Samantha. If you can do that, then that's ideal. We have relationships with a wide number of plugin authors already, like Lifter LMS, WP Fusion, Launchflows, which I'm looking at right here, the WASP Pro people, a few others we have relationships with as well that I can't just pull off. Uncanny Automators coming up soon. So we have a few relationships out there in the moment, and so if it's with any of those plugins, then that's a relatively easy fix that we can start to communicate on. But if it's a different issue, then best way is to put us in touch. If we're the author that's having the conflict, put us in touch with whichever other plugin is having that conflict, and we're going to be able to work something out with them. Hopefully that helps, Samantha, and provides you a little bit of guidance on the best way to go about solving that issue. Again, if you could provide more context on where you need, on your marketing information question, like reliable marketing information, then that would be helpful. So go ahead and just type in the chat your context there so I can best answer you. Kevin Rones asks, what is the benefit of WP Fusion with Groundhogg, and why would WP Fusion be a good investment with Groundhogg? So for those of you who don't know what WP Fusion is, it's basically like internal Zapier for WordPress. It is a one-stop shop for integrating literally hundreds of WordPress plugins with your CRM. One of the unique benefits of using Groundhogg with WP Fusion is the CRM is also a WordPress plugin, which makes the integration like rocket fast and really, really, really simple versus using the software as a service applications out there like Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, etc. So it's really like the ultimate Zapier internal tool for connecting integrations. Now, we do a really good job of integrating Groundhogg with other services. We have like 25 plus integrations, which is pretty freaking ridiculous. And we can't integrate with every single service out there because there's like 1,000 different ways to integrate with whatever. But the cool thing that WP Fusion offers is they have like standard integration sets. So they can basically just like plug and play CRMs and plugins no matter which CRM or plugin that you're using, which is really, really, really cool. And it just makes like the integration process of like hundreds of WordPress plugins with dozens of CRMs really, really easy. So if you have something like BuddyBoss or like maybe a membership plugin that we don't support, then WP Fusion makes a whole lot of sense. It's going to save you a whole lot of heartache, and it's going to save you a whole lot of time. It's going to save you a whole lot of money, really. And I think their pricing is exemplary generous for the value that they actually offer. So I think it starts at the good one starts at $347 a year, which is going to have like all of your updates, your customer support, your website. And Jack Arturo, who is the developer behind WP Fusion, is just like a salt of the earth gentleman and one of the greatest like support people on the planet. I'm pretty sure he was born as a good support rep. I had to learn good customer support. I wasn't always that great at support. As a developer, I can be pretty terse on tickets sometimes, but I'm doing my best to learn to become a better support agent. But Jack is just like super, super, super good. So if you have an integration need that we don't currently offer, then WP Fusion is a brilliant investment. And Kev is asking for a use case. So a use case for WP Fusion would definitely be if, let's say, you're using BuddyBoss, right? So a lot of people using BuddyBoss these days for their community or the forums or the whatever. So let's say that someone joined a group. I think that's the thing that you can do in BuddyBoss, or they get like some sort of like a tribute tag or whatever. Essentially, when that happened, you'd be able to use the WP Fusion in order to apply tags or start funnels or send emails within Groundhogg. Now, that's something that you wouldn't be able to do without WP Fusion because we don't have a BuddyBoss specific integration. You could also do it with like forums or other stuff like that. So specifically also membership. So lots of membership plugins. And I don't think we have any membership specific integrations. WP Fusion, also ideal for that. So someone buys or gets access to a specific membership, you'd be able to apply a tag to that contact record in Groundhogg. You'd be able to sync the user profile with the Groundhogg contact record based on the membership as well whenever they update the profile and stuff. And it just makes the process a lot easier. So that would be a specific use case that I'd offer to you for using WP Fusion. It's excellent value. It's an excellent product. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it for any integrations that we don't support in-house. So hopefully, Kevin, that answers your question. Samantha qualified her earlier question about the marketing information, and she's actually asking about specific or training to market your product. I feel like there is contradicting information on product marketing and also how to turn this into funnels. Funnels are useless if I can't get people into them. That is the most true statement that I've ever heard anyone say, Samantha. Funnels are useless if you can't get anyone into them. Yeah, and so as I'm sure you're familiar with, product marketing is very niche specific. For example, in the software space, we have our whole marketing funnel set up based on our repository and our Facebook group, and we get found through word of mouth through our podcasts and etc. So the question becomes, okay, so I have my product, and I'm familiar that you do Performance Course Academy, which is your training academy for equestrians, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I know about your company. So the question becomes, all right, well, how do I get more people into my funnel to learn about equestrian training? So the first thing I would do with that is ask yourself this question. Where do aspiring equestrians hang out? Where are they? Are they on Reddit? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Who do they listen to? What do they read? Do they listen to podcasts? Where do they work? Ask yourself, where is my ideal target audience? What are they doing? Once you answer that question, the rest becomes a lot clearer. If you just go out into Google and shot in the dark and, start spending tons of money on advertising, I promise you're going to waste a shit ton of money. But if you're able to pinpoint exactly where your ideal customer is hanging out, the marketing funnel process becomes significantly simpler. I'll give you an example. Where do our customers hang out? They hang out in business groups on Facebook. They listen to business podcasts. They're generally using WordPress, so they hang out in WordPress-specific groups. And what did I do when launching Groundhogg is I joined every single one of those. I got on as many WordPress-focused podcasts as I can. I made a whole ton of friends with other WordPress product developers. And you're familiar, Samantha, with Chris from Lifter LMS, who is now a very good friend of mine. And we do a lot of cross-promotion because he's part of my audience now and I'm part of his audience. I also was able to connect with Michael Short from the WAS audience. And I became part of all of these different lists and became friends with all of these other different product makers, because their audience was my audience. And that's how I was able to grow this company and to get the size of the list that we do today and to turn this into a viable product and fill our marketing funnel essentially. And from there, after I did all of that prenatal work, the organic traffic just started to come in through Google search and through forums, and the backlinks started to propagate without me needing to do anything. And from here, the list and the funnel is just organically working without me having to put a whole lot of extra effort into it, which is really, really nice for me. So going back to your specific use case, where is your audience hanging out? If they're hanging out in certain Facebook groups, join those groups and offer assistance. Join whatever Facebook groups, all of the groups, if there's hundreds of questioning groups, join every single one of them. And all you have to do is occasionally pop in, see what questions, answer them super nicely, and basically say, if you need more help with this, I actually have a video on this topic specifically that you can go watch. This video might be on YouTube, it might be on Facebook, it might be on Vimeo. It's a free video. Don't ask for them to buy anything, but you can send them to that video and your video can help them with their problem, and then your video will then sell them on your product or service or your training or your course or whatever it is that you need to sell them. That would be how I would go about it. And I can see that you're commenting here. They're hanging out on Facebook and they're hanging out on Instagram. Great. So what you do is you follow the people on Instagram so you can see what they're talking about, where they're hanging out, what they're doing. You join all of the Facebook groups. You offer assistance. You answer people's questions. And you do that with content that redirects to your service offering. So when I started Groundhogg, wrote a bunch of blog posts that answered a bunch of different people's questions about marketing automation. Every single one of those blog posts, of course, at the end said, hey, listen, if you need help with this, we can do that with our service, which you can get here for free or for paid or whatever you want to do. That's how I did it. And that's how I recommend, if you're tight on marketing budget and you don't want to waste a bunch of money on ads like I did in the beginning, that's what I would do. Just go hang out where they're hanging out. If I noticed that you also said they go to barrel races. I have no idea what a barrel race is, but it sounds awesome. Go there, see if whoever's hosting those races has an opportunity for sponsorship. Get a booth, show up, be part of the community. And I think that's really what a lot of this boils down to. The reason that our company is here a year and a bit later is because we were part of the community, and that was the biggest marketing strategy that we could have ever deployed. By me showing up and being part of the community and talking to people and getting feedback and offering solutions and offering help, all for very little, we were able to turn that into reciprocity. I'm not sure if you know the law of reciprocity, but it's one of the most strongest universal laws out there. You give out and you're going to get back 10 times over. That's what we did, and that's what I recommend you do. Just go be a part of your community, go hang out where they're hanging out, be in service of, and that will come back tenfold in registrations, in revenue, in all of those different ways. And you know what? I think next week I'm going to dedicate an entire office hours topic to this to help you out with that. Because I think it's so important that people know the organic marketing strategy, which is so much more different than it was like 4 or 5 years ago before like Google algorithm updates and all of that stuff. Organic marketing is incredibly different. It's back to word of mouth. We went full circle. We went word of mouth to, gaming Google all the way back to word of mouth, because Google just made it incredibly difficult to rank. So we've come full circle. We're back at word of mouth, and it's important to know how to facilitate that and to get it going, to turn it into a viable, organic, growing business. So I'm going to do that next office hours. I'm going to put the slides together. I'm going to get the whole plan going so that I can help you out more with that, because I think it's super important that people know that strategy. Travis asks, for a learning membership program, is it recommended to install Lifter LMS on the same domain, Groundhogg, or a subdomain? It really doesn't matter. Travis, I have mine on a subdomain with Groundhogg installed on it as well, so that I can do my Lifter LMS automation based on our integration with them. So I have those installed in the same install, and I have another site with Groundhogg installed on it, which is our marketing site, and I have them synced up together with webhooks. So that's my setup. But if you're building like a new site from the ground up and it's from scratch, then there's really no reason why you can't have them all on the same site together. So it's kind of a personal preference at that point. There's no cost savings and there are no time savings, especially when it's a new site and you're starting out. I know a lot of people have a preference for a subdomain, and you could do like Academy, like we have ours like academy.groundhogg.io. But the reason we couldn't put it in our main site was just because like our main site was too far gone, and we wouldn't be able to make the styling work and all of that stuff. So it was more effort than it was worth to try and bake it into our core site. But if it's a brand new site, there's no reason why you can't just have it all on the same site. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'll tell you, Travis. New site, you go right ahead and you install everything on the same domain. If it's an old site, save yourself some heartache and just install it on a subdomain. That's my recommendation. Samantha says, I feel like I wasted so much time on Facebook ads and they aren't working. I hear you, Samantha. I wasted $3,000 on Facebook ads at the beginning, and that was a painful learning experience because that was a lot of money for me at the time, because we weren't making any money, so we were just spending it, and that was no good. So I hear you. Organic marketing is definitely through the word of mouth and through the strategy that I'll go really dive deep in next week. That's a much more effective strategy, I believe, for small businesses, especially when they don't have any pull. Facebook advertising and Facebook marketing will work if you have an audience to back you up, right? So when you get people who use your product already commenting your ads and social proofing it and whatever, when you already have that audience that can answer questions that new prospective customers might have, that's when Facebook marketing works. If you don't have an audience and you're starting from scratch, Facebook advertising is a waste of money. So, at least in my experience, it has been a waste of money. I'm sure some people are able to make Facebook ads work really, really well for them. I am not one of those people, and I will eventually have to get help on the whole Facebook advertising front because I am not a Facebook advertiser. But when it comes to, post sign up and organic reach, I feel like I've done a pretty good job at that. So that's definitely something I can help with. Louis asks, are there future plans for integration with Facebook audiences? No, there are not future plans for integration with Facebook audiences. You can do it through Zapier, by the way. So that's something that you can do because Zapier has an integration with Facebook audiences and we have an integration with Zapier. So that is something that if you're interested in, you can do that. But Facebook audience, the Facebook audiences integration is really conducive to a software as a service application, of which Groundhogg is not. Groundhogg is a self-hosted application. So the integration process becomes tenfold more difficult. So really the only way to do that is by going through the Zapier road, Louis. So hopefully that answers your question. We don't plan on adding a specific Facebook audience integration anytime in the near future. what time is office hours next week so I can add it into my calendar? That's a great question, Samantha. And you know what? That we're going to actually start wrapping it up on that note. So if you need additional help and resources, we have lots to choose from. We have our academy.groundhogg.io, which is our LMS on our subdomain. All of our previous office hours are recorded there and posted there, as will this one be after the call is done. So you can go there to get training on Groundhogg, training on marketing and best practices, training on why you need to launch your product today, and all of that good stuff. If you're more of a sit back, relax, and you don't want to have any part in the implementation process, no worries. We have certified partners who are trained specifically on Groundhogg and how to best help you. You can find those partners at partner/certified partner directory. They all have links on their profiles so you can get in touch with them directly. Or if you want to message us, we can actually set you up with a partner introduction and you can have a conversation with them. If you know someone who would benefit from using Groundhogg, maybe a colleague, maybe a friend, maybe a business partner, you can earn based on their purchase by going to affiliate area/registration, and we can certainly help you with that as well. And you can earn 10% on all recurring commissions. If you're not already, you should be following us on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribing to us on YouTube, where we post tutorials as well as these office hours. All of these are great ways to stay in touch with me personally as well as our company and learn about product updates and the newest information. If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate if you left a review. And speaking of reviews, last office hours was, I thought, really good. And you should definitely go watch it. It's currently up on academy.groundhogg.io. It's called Tips for Collecting Reviews and Feedback. One of our best office hours, I think. And it comes with a funnel template for collecting reviews, and it's just really great. And if you'd love to leave us a review, that would also be really great. Go to our WordPress.org repository page, /plugins/Groundhogg, and leave a 5-star review. If you have questions after office hours is over, have no fear. We are still here to help. You can continue to comment on the thread. You can post in the Facebook group. That's what the Facebook group is there for. You can message our live chat. You can also reach out to us on Twitter or via email. All valid ways to get in touch with us so that we can help solve your problems. All right, that's it for this office hours. Going back to Samantha's question, when is the next office hours? Next office hours will be next week, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We always send links out via email ahead of office hours. So check your inbox. You're going to see an email that says office hours coming up, and in it will be several links for the next 4 office hours, all with calendar links. So if you use Google Calendar, you can just click the link and it will add the event to your Google Calendar. It's really quite nifty. If you're not using that, or you didn't receive that email for whatever reason, maybe because you haven't confirmed your email address, then what you need to do is you need to go to your calendar right now, your calendar of choice, and you need to put in office hours 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 9th. Yeah, 9th. June 9th will be the next office hours. I see that there were a few other questions. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave those. I will continue to answer those questions just via reply. I hope that everybody enjoyed the session of office hours. I hope everybody learned something, and I will see everybody next week. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.